Well now, isn't it something how certain ideas, certain phrases, can just grab hold of your mind and make you ponder a little deeper? We all feel it, don't we? That inner stirring, that desire to be a little bit more tomorrow than we are today. That urge to climb a little higher, reach a little further, to overcome the things that hold us back. Where does that fundamental human impulse come from? It's a question that thinkers and philosophers have wrestled with for centuries. Today, I want to touch upon a concept from one of those thinkers who, shall we say, really liked to stir the intellectual pot. His name was Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher from a ways back, and he put forth an idea that was, and still is, considered quite radical, often provocative, and frequently misunderstood. He called it the will to power. Now, just the sound of that phrase, the will to power, can conjure up all sorts of images, can't it? Some might think of kings and conquerors, of the raw ambition to dominate others. And if that's all it was, well, we might not spend much time on it here. But I've found that sometimes the most challenging ideas, if you turn them over and look at them from different angles, can offer some unexpected insights, even for our own journey of personal development. So, who was this Nietzsche? Well, he wasn't a fellow who took the easy intellectual route. He questioned a lot of the comfortable assumptions of his day, and ours too. He looked at human nature, at values, at society, and he didn't just accept what everyone else was saying. He dug deep. And one of the things he proposed was this fundamental drive he called the will to power. It's an idea that has sparked endless debate, so let's approach it with a bit of curiosity, shall we? Let's see if we can unpack it a little, and perhaps find something of value for ourselves. First things first, when Nietzsche talked about the will to power, he wasn't primarily talking about the desire for political office, or to be the boss over other people, or to amass armies. That's a very limited, and I think, a rather crude interpretation of what he was getting at. He saw it as something much more fundamental, a basic driving force present in all living things. Think of it less as a will to dominate others, and more as a will to express one's own inherent strength, to grow, to expand, to overcome resistance, both internal and external, and to strive towards its own highest potential. Imagine a tiny seed. What does it do? It pushes against the soil, against the darkness. It breaks through the surface, sometimes even through hard concrete, reaching for the sunlight. That seed isn't trying to rule over other seeds, is it? It's striving to become the fullest version of itself, to become that magnificent tree it has the potential to be. That's a kind of will to power. Or think of an artist wrestling with their materials, with their own limitations, striving to bring a vision to life, to create something beautiful or profound. That intense effort, that drive to impose form, to express an inner reality. Nietzsche might say that's the will to power at work. Consider the dedicated athlete pushing their body to its limits, enduring pain and exhaustion, all to shave a second off their time, to jump an inch higher. It's not just about beating others. It's about conquering their own previous best, about achieving a new level of mastery. This, too, can be seen as a manifestation of this inner striving. So if we look at it this way, the will to power is fundamentally about self-overcoming. It's about becoming master of oneself, one's impulses, one's weaknesses, one's limitations. It's that inner fire that says, I can be more, I can do more, I can achieve a higher state of being. Where might we see constructive expressions of such a drive in our own lives? Well, certainly in our pursuit of personal growth. That desire to learn something new every day, to become mentally sharper, physically stronger, perhaps even spiritually deeper. That commitment to developing our skills, to refining our talents, isn't that a kind of will to enhance our own power, our own capacity? It's that inner voice that echoes the challenge. Be better today than you were yesterday. It's there in creativity. The entrepreneur who takes a risk to build something new. The writer who crafts a story. The inventor who brings a new solution into the world. These are acts of bringing something forth from within, of shaping reality according to a vision. That's a powerful expression of this drive. We see it in overcoming obstacles. Life isn't always smooth sailing, is it? We all face challenges, setbacks, disappointments. The will to power in this light isn't about avoiding those difficulties, but about meeting them head on, seeing them as opportunities to test our strength, to learn, to grow more resilient. As I've often said, mountains are not there to block our path. They are there to be climbed, because the climb itself makes us stronger. And it's certainly present in the striving for excellence in any worthwhile endeavor. Not just to be adequate, not just to get by, but to pursue mastery, to reach for the highest standards you are capable of. That dedication, that refusal to settle for mediocrity, resonates with this idea of an inner force pushing us towards our best. Now, Nietzsche's concept was called radical for a reason. It challenged a lot of conventional thinking. It suggests that life, at its core, isn't primarily about seeking comfort or a state of passive happiness. Instead, it's about this constant striving, this dynamic process of becoming, of overcoming. It implies that effort, struggle, and the willingness to confront our limitations are not things to be avoided, but essential parts of a vigorous and meaningful life. This isn't so far from the idea that Easy Street often turns out to be a detour to a place you didn't want to go. True achievement, lasting satisfaction, usually requires effort, discipline, and a willingness to push beyond our comfort zone. Of course, we have to be careful here. An idea like the will to power can be, and tragically has been, misinterpreted and misused. If it's twisted into a justification for ruthlessness, for dominating others, for trampling on the rights and dignity of fellow human beings, then it becomes a destructive and dangerous philosophy. That's the corruption of the idea, not its deepest meaning, especially as it might apply to individual self-development. Any power, any drive, without the guidance of wisdom, discipline, and sound ethical principles can indeed be perilous. A powerful engine in a car without a steering wheel or brakes is just an accident waiting to happen. So, can we find something of value for our own lives in this challenging concept? Something that aligns with the pursuit of a well-lived, productive, and principled life. Perhaps we can see Nietzsche's will to power, when understood as a drive for self-mastery and the full expression of one's potential, as another way of describing that inner engine, that internal fire that I believe resides in every one of us. That desire to grow, to achieve, to make a mark, to develop our God-given talents to the fullest. Think about the discipline it takes for self-overcoming, the commitment required to turn weaknesses into strengths. That resonates, does it? So, Nietzsche's will to power, a radical concept? Yes. Complex and open to misunderstanding? Absolutely. But if we carefully peel away the layers of misinterpretation, if we set aside the crude desire for mere domination, perhaps we can glimpse within it a name for that profound, restless, human urge to strive, to grow, to overcome, and to create. That deep-seated desire to not just exist, but to become. The real question, then, isn't whether this will exists within us. I believe it does, in various forms and degrees. The crucial questions are: how do we understand this inner drive? How do we channel it? How do we express it? If it's guided by discipline, focused on self-mastery, tempered with wisdom, and aligned with sound, life-affirming principles, then this inner striving can indeed be a powerful force for remarkable personal achievement, for significant contribution, and for a life lived with vigor and purpose. It makes you think, doesn't it? What great potential lies dormant within you right now that this fundamental inner will is urging you to develop, to express, to unleash upon the world in a positive and constructive way? That's a question worth pondering long after our little chat today.